everyone, and a big welcome to our live stream today. We are here, of course, to talk about the new Enscape 3.3, which we released last week on April 6th. My name is Gemma De Silva. I'm here to welcome you all today. Thank you so much for joining us. We are super excited about what we have to share with you today. So we will have a demonstration during today's live stream where we will talk to you about the new features and the improvements that have been made to Enscape. Kai and Josh from our application engineering team will also show you how you can use these within your daily workflows. A few things to note before we get started. We do have chat available for you today, so if you would like to leave some feedback or engage and connect with your fellow Enscape users, feel free to make good use of that. We will also have a Q&A session at the end of the demonstration as well, so if you have a question you'd like to ask, feel free to pop that into the chat pane and we'll get to as many as we can during the Q&A session. A few other things to note before we get started. If you are a student or an educator, you are entitled to a free educational license of Enscape, and you can apply for that on our website. I'll pop a link into the chat pane in a moment. You can also try Enscape out for free. There is a 14-day trial available, and again, you can apply for that on our website. And to our existing Enscape users, you can download Enscape 3.3 right now. So you can start using the new features that we're going to show you today. So I'd encourage you to download that after the session and give it a go and let us know what you think. So I think with that, we will get into the demonstration. Let's see what's new with Enscape 3.3. I'm going to hand over to Josh and Kai and we'll get started. Thank you so much. Let's get going.
Hey everyone. Welcome to the Enscape 3.3 release webinar. Today with me is, again, Josh Radel, my fellow application engineer. Josh, how are you doing?
Good, about yourself?
Good to hear that. Yeah, thanks everyone for taking the time. As mentioned, today we're going to have a look at the new features, the new additions that we've added for Enscape with, or to Enscape with Enscape 3.3. Let's have a look at what exactly these are going to be. First, we're going to talk about our main hero feature, the site context. We're going to have a look at the always on top option, the alpha channel, so the ability to export images without background, transparent surfaces in reflections, so some improvement in rendering there, the material override feature, and the camera synchronization improvements for Revit. We're going to have a look at the option to migrate previous uploads to the new customer accounts. We're going to have a look at the new assets we deliver with this version, and we're going to finish with a Q&A part. So I'm going to start with a little look at the site context feature. We all know that one of the most immersion-breaking things, so to say, in a visualization is an empty background and a white and gray ground, so to say. This doesn't really look too correct. As a quick and simple option to add environment, to add a site context to your designs, we have with Enscape 3.3 we have introduced the site context feature. You can find it up here in the Enscape toolbar. You can also press the O key on your keyboard to access it. And as you see it in my left tab here, by default, this is empty for any given project. To get any site context into our scene, we click this button down here, the Add Site Context button. And Enscape will open a new window containing a map, a OpenStreetMap interface that by default takes the location that has been set for this project already. So if you've used one of the geolocation features in your design application, Enscape will automatically recommend this given location. However, today we want to place our scene somewhere else, and we're going to pick our address, the address of the Enscape headquarters, that is an der Raumfabrik in Germany. Here we are, and as you see, Enscape will find this this address by giving this, or by taking the street name. You can also search for a city, You can even enter coordinates, and Enscape will find it just fine. On the left side, we see an overview where we are at the moment, and in the middle, once again, we see the map interface, and we can pick where exactly to position our model. If you are zoomed out really far, it's possible that you don't see a representation of your model, but you see this little pin that you can drag and move somewhere to position your model in. If you zoom in further, you will see a 2D outline of your model. And if you zoom in even further, you can grab the rotation handle and rotate your model as well. Now, first of all, we want to place it roughly where it's supposed to be. So let's say here. And now you might have guessed that you can also change the boundaries, the outlines of the map that you're going to import by dragging these orange borders. What you can also do is just click this little button in the bottom right corner, and that will center the selection square. It will center that around your model automatically. So let's place it where we want it to be. This is where we are located, so let me rotate it correctly to fit our environment. And let's increase the scale of our selection square a little more. By the way, you can zoom in and out by using the mouse wheel. You can also press these plus and minus buttons in the bottom right corner. Let's increase the selection here a little bit. Don't go too far with that, because at some point Enscape will tell you, okay, at this size, maybe you want to scale down the selection a little bit to maintain performance in Enscape. But I don't want to go that large. I just want to go with Durlach, the city that we are located in. And again, we'll have the model placed neatly right in here. In the bottom left corner, you can also decide whether or not to load in buildings and landmarks, streets and sidewalks, or the topography. So those three are three separate layers you can load in separately. I recommend to load all of them at the same time. I'm going to click import, and Enscape will load the context, the map data, and create tiny little building models for us. So we have, the full picture. It's worth mentioning that the data that is being taken into account here is OpenStreetMap data, which is open, as the name says, an open map service. So it's being maintained by its users. That means there is no guarantee that everything is displayed as it looks in reality. However, it is a quick and reliable service. So that's the data that we use. Now we already see a part of the context that we're loading in. There we are. And you might also have noticed that Enscape has automatically hidden any buildings that would have overlapped with our geometry. So Enscape does that automatically. And as you see, we have a nice topology. We have the hillsides surrounding the town. We see a representation of all the buildings in the environment. The model itself is still, half sunken in the floor, so to say. Let's have a look at how to fix that first, because that might be the first step you're going to take when importing a site context anyways. So to change the elevation or the fine placement of our design object, we're going to click this button here, the three lines, and pick Edit Site Context. And that will switch the site context into a semi-transparent state, in a wide and semi-transparent state, which indicates that we can now move the site context around our design. So let's wait for a second. There we are. Let me rotate around the building so we see it better. And now we have two buttons in the bottom left. We can pick translate mode or rotation mode. We could rotate our model either by dragging the slider here or by entering actual data. Let's wait for a second, or by entering numbers. So let's return to where we were. And let's stick with the translation mode for now. Here too, we could add specific numbers. We can also just drag the environment by left-clicking onto this transparent side context and moving it around. If we just left-click and do nothing else, the side context model will only be moved on the horizontal axis. We can also hold Control on the keyboard to change the height of the side context, and that way we can now, move it to the right height so it's not overlapping with our actual model. Once we are satisfied, we can confirm our changes, and Enscape will return to the default side context mode and give us an overview over, well, the environment and the neighborhood of the model that we're planning this in. One thing that I want to mention as well, we have some more settings in here. Let me explain those just briefly. We have the update side context option, which we can choose, or which we can use to choose a different location for our model. We have the height overlapping data button, which means you've seen Enscape hiding the geometry that was overlapping with our model in the beginning automatically. In case it ever does not do that, you can click this button to make it disappear quickly. And you can click Reset Visibility to unhide, to show anything that might have been hidden before. And obviously, you can click Remove Side Context in order to remove the entire environment. Then we have an eye icon next to map data, which we can use to temporarily hide or unhide the entire geometry, the entire context. I might have picked, what do you think, Josh? I might have picked a slightly large model. I see there's a little bit of a delay when I do things. I hope
look good though.
It won't. Sorry?
It looked good though.
All right, good to hear that. So last thing, you can select individual buildings, streets, and landmarks in this list here, and the buildings, for example, will be filled or will be sorted by streets. And here too, we can access individual buildings or entire streets and control their visibility. So if we want to hide a certain street, for example, or the buildings on one street, we can use the eye icon in this list here. You will notice that it takes a little bit before the shadows update, but that's perfectly normal. Just give it a little bit time, and you will see that they will disappear soon enough. Okay, and one last thing, you can also not just hide individual parts of the visualization, you can hide the topography, or if you've used your design application to create a native site, so some landscaping function from your design application, you can quickly hide or unhide that in here as well. Yeah, that's the feature. Just some backgrounds: if you save your design application file, this site context will be saved in that file. That doesn't mean that you will ever see this site context in your design application. It will only exist, it will only be visible inside of Enscape, but it is still being saved in that file, so you don't have to set it up again. If you close down your design application and reopen it, it will always be connected with your project unless you choose to remove it. What do you think, Josh? Did I forget something? Was something unclear? And I think you want to show us what the site context feature looks like for you. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, you explained everything very, very well. Looks really good in your model. Let's try it over here in the States where I'm at.
Show us.
All right. So like I showed you, we'll go up to the site context feature, and then from here we'll go down to the bottom where it says add site context. And now I will type in my location. I know there's some new development going up in St. Paul, Minnesota. So let's do St. Paul. Yep, here we go, St. Paul, Minnesota. Let me get this a little bit bigger here. And I know there's some new development going up across the bridge here. So I can take my model again, take the little pin. I'm just going to scroll wheel in and then position that where the new development is going up here. Let's position it right about here. Looks about right. Or we can even, I know there's another development going up. Right, yeah, let's just, right here be just fine. So position that into position right there. That looks good. I get enough of downtown. I can make it a little bit bigger too, just to get a couple extra little bits. I do want to import all my buildings, landmarks, streets, and topography as well. So like I said, all I'm going to do is hit the import button. And we're going to see this import now. And from there, I'll be able to see exactly what's going on, how it fits into the land, and then I can see what's in my surrounding areas as well, so I can get a nice view of what everybody's going to see once they move into this new place. All right, here we go. And here's my site. We can see I got the Twin Cities in the back. I got the city of St. Paul. Came in pretty good. I can go up top here and see. If I look out the window, I can get a nice idea of what, when somebody's looking out their kitchen window, how this is going to look for them. This looks pretty good. I can also, like I said, you're not going to be able to see it in your design application, but what I can also do inside of here is if I need to start populating my scene with assets like trees, people, or anything like that, this feature also works inside of there. So if I go up to my asset library button, I can filter out by vegetation. If I do tags, I can do simplified. So now I can start placing some simplified assets anywhere I would like. I can do, again, single asset placement or multi-asset placement, depending on what I'm looking for. But this feature works in here as well, too. Let's say I'm okay with that.
Awesome.
Yeah, super cool. So now all I can do is just hit the apply change button. And again, it's going to push those changes back inside of Revit or any design application that I'm working in. There we go. That's where I can start to see, exactly kind of how my building is going to fit into my space. And here I got the background as well, some hills. You can see the roads. And again, if I need to double check that, I can just go back to site contacts. For the streets that I'm working on, I can even select the street, make sure that's the correct one. Yep, East Fillmore Avenue. Perfect. That's exactly where it's going to go. And again, I didn't have a site modeled, so I don't have anything to hide like I did. Any sites to hide like you did. I just designed the building here. So now what we can do is, keep working, keep visualizing, and keep going with the project. Guys, is there anything I missed? Or what do you think?
Don't think so. Wonderful. How about the pin to top option?
Ooh, all right.
Tell us more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. So a lot of times when we're working on one monitor here, let me get my screen. So for a lot of users, if I'm working with one monitor, it can kind of be hard to switch between Enscape and go back and forth and keep working, because the minute I click on Revit or any design application, it's going to go behind it. So it makes it kind of hard to keep working. Well, now in 3.3, we introduced this new feature called Always on Top. So where you're going to find it is in the Enscape window setting. And then you're going to go to Preferences, and then it's going to be this window on top. It's going to say Pin Windows on top of the host application. Now when I click back to Revit, it's going to, or my other design application, Enscape's going to stay always on top for me. So now I can scale that to the size that I want it to be, and I can keep working. Again, great for if we're working on single monitors as well. And now, again, I can just have that always on top, and I can keep designing, keep working while this is always on top. And again, this works for all design applications as well. All right, Kai, what you got?
I think this is a really, really strong feature. Might look small, might look like nothing much, but the ability to have Enscape like being a tiny little window that belongs to your design application is
Right.
so powerful, I believe. So
truly another-
definitely try that yourself.
Yeah,
It feels really awesome, right?
Yeah, exactly. Truly another window into your model.
Wonderful. Okay, let's have a look. we have a alpha channel export included into Enscape, which means you know, you can create a still image rendering using this button here, obviously. If you go to the visual settings output tab, you can, and you could already enable, export object ID, material ID, and depth channel. You can, automatically, there will also be an alpha channel included in that now. What does that mean? That means whenever we create a still image rendering, and let me go to my pictures and save it there. Whenever we create a still image rendering, it will now create 5 images automatically. Should be at the very bottom here. 1 second. Oh, there we are. Now it's finished. There we go. So we have this, the actual rendering. We have a, wait a second. We have this, the actual rendering. We have a, an alpha channel which applies a white mask on black ground wherever your geometry is located. So you can create a mask easily and quickly using Photoshop or any 2D software that supports layers. However, there is an even faster way to achieve that. Namely, you can export, as long as you're exporting your images as PNG graphics format, you can click Apply Alpha Channel right there. And rather than having to create 5 separate images, we can just have this option checked. And what this is going to do is it's going to create an image by default without a background. So the sky that we see right now, the gray ground we're seeing, that will not be included. We see that here. Wait a second, just opened on my second monitor. And there we are. Instead, we will have an empty, or in this case, white background. What that means is if I have any kind of image, any photograph or any other image, like this example, for example, and we want to use that as a background, we can literally just throw in that file that we've created, and as you see, we will have that background being used right away. Maybe let's move this up a little bit so it looks more realistic. And yeah, again, that way you can use a still image, a photography, or any kind of image, and embed your image files, your still image renderings into that background with, yeah, no effort pretty much. Mind you that this has to be done in a separate 2D software, like in my case, Paint.net, Photoshop, or any other 2D editing software that supports layers. And next I want to show you an additional little, well, addition to the Enscape feature set, or to the Enscape rendering quality, namely reflections. You know, if you've ever worked with reflections in Enscape, there is a, it can have difficulties to show everything in those reflections that it's supposed to show. So you see it here, we have some objects flickering in and out of existence, so to say. That's simply because reflections is something that is very complex to do in real-time visualization. And in Enscape, there is an algorithm running in the background that decides what to show and what not, depending on the scale, the detail, or the amount of detail, and the distance to the camera. Anyways, something that has never shown up before in reflections are transparent objects. This is something that has been requested a lot, so we have included it with this release. And you see those, the glass panels, our windows being reflected in this reflection. So once again, as you see, it's hard to guarantee that something will show up, but for transparent surfaces, it is now possible to be displayed in reflections, and that can make a huge difference in your exported, or in the media that you're sharing, in the visualizations that you share with your clients and partners. So once again, we now have transparent objects showing up in reflections. Josh, what's next?
All right, we're going to talk about the material overwrite feature. So something new to 3.3. And while we're at it, I'm going to keep using my always on top feature now, because I'm working at a single monitor, so making it a lot easier. All right.
Nice.
So let's get in here. All right. So what we're going to do, to get to this material overwrite feature, you're going to go up to your Enscape material editor. It's the little checkered sphere. It showed up over on my other monitor. Okay, so when we're doing design reviews or choosing materials, this material overwrite feature is going to be a really big help in flipping between different materials to see what it's going to look like. And how you get to those is what you're going to do is you're going to go select the material that you want. You're going to hover over it. There's going to be 3 little dots that pull up. And then now there's going to be this button called Replace with Enscape Material. So that's going to open up the Enscape Material library here. So I can make this a little bit smaller too. And notice with 3.3 or every new release, we get new materials. So your new materials are going to show up with a little badge that says new. Let's say I want to go to bricks. And all I have to do is pick the brick that I want. And now I can see what that new material is going to look like inside of Enscape. So this is a quick way where I can flip between different materials, try out different materials for what I'm looking for. Again, I can favorite materials if I'd like, but just to be able to quickly flip out different materials to get a good idea of what I want this to look like. And if I'm excited, if I'm happy with this one, let's do this one. I like this one a little bit better. So if I'm happy with this one, all I have to do is click the replace button. And what this is going to do is this is going to replace that material. And with this bidirectional link for the material editor, any changes I make inside of here, it's going to push those changes back inside the design application. So since I'm in Revit, this is going to replace just the appearance tab inside of Revit. So it's not going to mess with my surface patterns or anything like that as well, or my naming convention. All it's going to do is just replace the appearance tab. And again, this works for all the other design applications that we support as well. It's just going to replace that material inside the host design application. So we can see here, it kept my name exactly how I want, and it replaced the appearance tab, just the appearance tab. And if I had surface patterns set up on my materials, it would not mess with those at all. So now we can try another material to see exactly how this looks. So let's say I want to choose a different tile floor in here. So if I go back to my Enscape material editor, and I know I want to replace these tiles. Right here. So let's say I'm going to hover over the three dots again. I'm going to do is click the 3 little dots, click replace with Enscape material. And now let's see what kind of tiles I'm going to throw in here. Tile 3 looks good. I can change time of day so I can get a better idea of how these are going to look at a certain time of day with some sun coming in. Again, being able to quickly just flip out different materials, try out different things as well if I need to. Here we go. Let's say I want to go with these. With this one right here, that looks pretty good. So again, all I gotta do is hit the replace button. And it's going to replace all of that information inside my material editor with that material that I just exchanged it for. Again, if I were to go into Revit, I would see these new material maps as well inside Revit or inside my design application, say SketchUp as well, or any other design application that we support. It's going to show those new material maps. All right, that is our material override feature. Kai, what you got?
Nice. I think you still want to show us the new camera sync option for Revit.
Absolutely. I would love to show you that. All right, so let me get back outside here. So with 3.3, we introduced, it's not a brand new feature to Enscape, but it's a feature to Revit and Archicad that hasn't been there before. So all of our other design applications, we have a camera synchronization views button. So with Revit and Archicad now, we have this button in here. So it's going to live right next to the Enscape play button. So all I have to do is hit camera sync. And now wherever I move inside of Revit or Archicad as well, the views are going to stay intact and match as well. So if I go inside as well, again, the views are going to match up and stay the same. I can also create views off of here as well if I need to keep the 2 views intact, just by going up and hitting view management and then hit the create view button. call it what I need to. We'll just leave it with that. And then I can hit create view. Again, so we can have the two views together now. And again, this was something that Revit and Archicad had not had before. So now with 3.3, now it's introduced. And now all the design applications we have camera synchronization views. All right, Kai, what you got?
At last. All right, wonderful. Some more administrative topics in my case now. If you have tried to upload a web standalone or a panorama sometime recently to the Enscape cloud, you might have received an error or an information just like this one. You are not logged in. We recommend that you log in when uploading content using an Enscape account. We are slowly moving towards making these Enscape accounts mandatory. That is expected for roughly around Enscape 3.5. However, so far, there was one slight issue that any uploads you've already had in the cloud, if you would log in, you would have to re-upload them, so they were not migrated automatically. We have changed that with Enscape 3.3. So let me log into my account here and see what that looks like. So now I'm connected with my license. As you've seen it, we do that in the About window, in the information window, so to say. And I'm now once again connected to my account. Now if we have a look at the uploads, we see this little icon here waiting for migration. And that's gonna happen once we click this button here. So we can press this, it will confirm the number of panoramas, the number of web standalones that I want to migrate. So I'm just gonna do that, and it will happen automatically. So we don't have to re-upload our panoramas if we want to log into our account for the future. Now it has thrown two errors for me in this case, but you know, I'm a supporter, I'm an application engineer, I'm testing a lot of stuff, so it's possible that something is set up weirdly in my case. Anyways, it should work just fine for you, so you can keep your existing uploads and then most importantly also keep the links they are connected to. The last topic that I want to, or the last addition to Enscape that I want to address is, of course, how could it be differently, our new assets. We have 101 new school and education themed assets that are being released with Enscape 3.3. Here you see a selection of them, some new, people, some students, and a fully functioning skate park. So Enscape is a skating simulation. No, just kidding. But once again, using these assets, you can make your educational themed projects look more lifelike and fill them with life easily. So that's that, 101 new assets designed by our 3D artists. There aren't many topics left to cover for the presentation of what's new in Enscape. We do support SketchUp 2022 now. I'm currently running on SketchUp 2021, but SketchUp 2022 is being officially supported now, so you can use it with Enscape. And one last mentioning, we have just recently updated our video tutorials page on Enscape, so you can find it under here, under resources, video tutorials, and we have a number of 1-hour videos on Enscape 3.2, another tutorial on Enscape 3.3 that is also going to be added. So if you feel like you're not really firm on the basics of Enscape, if you feel like there is something you would like to know more about lighting, about materials, about installation, system requirements, all the onboarding content you can find on our video tutorials page, so feel free to head over there. Or, of course, there is plenty of more content on our website, like our amazing knowledge base, where you can also read a lot of info about that. And, of course, our forums, where our wonderful community is constantly sharing their feedback, their ideas, the works that they are doing with Enscape. So feel free to reach out there as well. Communicate with the community, communicate with us. And thank you for your participation. Anything left to say from your end, Josh?
No, yeah, those are some really great resources. Yeah, knowledge base, forum, blog, the video tutorials, very, very great resources to get all in-depth knowledge about all things Enscape.
Indeed. Wonderful. Okay, in that case, we're going to switch some levers here. We're going to disappear for a second or two, and then we'll see each other in the Q&A.
All right.
And we're there. Let's see, my Enscape is still currently blocking a little bit of Josh's webcam, but you should be able to see us and hear us just well. Just a brief confirmation from the chat would be great. Josh, do you hear me? Wonderful. Same here. And yep, that looks good. Let me just check on my second screen. Yeah, perfect. Okay, we're ready for the Q&A. Thanks once again, everyone, for participating. And Josh, do you want to start with the first question? Perfect. Can you take another question? I just see there is something weird with my camera display right now. Oh, it's good, okay. Exactly, just to reiterate that, like there is multiple ways to rotate your asset, your custom your site context or your model in it. The first option or the first chance to rotate it is directly in the map selection. If you zoom in far enough, you will see this little rotate button handle. And then also later, once you have already imported the site context, you can go click on those three lines. I'm going to show it in a second. Click Edit Site Context, and then in the bottom left corner you can switch from Translate mode to Rotate mode, just like when you're placing assets in Enscape. And you can rotate it there numerically as well. Correct. I think the topography is quite good since it's being generated automatically. It's just about the buildings that can sometimes vary in height, but also the users are doing its best. By the way, I'm loading my model here again. It just takes a little while. But yeah, let's answer some more questions. I've heard a couple, or I've seen a couple of good questions. Whether 3D assets can be placed on the site context. Yes, that is possible. Yes. Oh, okay. My bad. Sorry. Thanks, everyone. Let's see. Can you say something? Oh, yeah. In that case, sorry. I just hear that Josh is not being heard. We're just going to change that real quick.
Yep. Sorry about that, guys.
Exactly. And you don't see me right now. We'll have it in a second. But you should be able to hear Josh now. All right.
How about now?
Yes, thanks everyone. So,
yeah.
You answered a couple of questions already. Do you want to repeat them? We are all set now.
I think you answered the Z adjustable height one. Yeah, if you just hold down Control.
Webinar, right? So you can change
exactly
the height of the map.
Yep, we can hear that one, and then to be able to rotate it. Yep, you can just click on the site, and then from there you can rotate or hit Edit Site, and then just freely rotate that.
Is it possible to create a view with it Enscape? Was a question here. Let me just check. Show you. You can absolutely do that. Just press the F key, click Create View, and it
that
will
one, and then
convert that view to
to
Revit or
rotate it.
SketchUp.
Yep. You can just click on the site. And
Josh, are you watching the video? Can you turn it, make it, turn it off? Thank you.
Yep, there we go.
Exactly, just click create view and it will create a view in your design application. Do you have something, Josh?
Yeah, let's see here. A couple comments about how cool the overwrite material feature is. Yep, really cool feature. Probably one of my favorite features. I'm a huge material person, so that was really cool for me to see. Yes, the OpenStreetMap, the site context feature is available on all the base programs that we support: Rhino, SketchUp, Revit, Archicad, and Vectorworks. Great question.
By the way, anyone asking if they have Enscape for one design application or if they have an older version of Enscape, whether they can update, yes, you absolutely can. If you have one subscription, if you have a valid license, you can update. You can use Enscape for all the design applications that are being supported.
Mm-hmm. And then I see one here. Can the site context push back to Revit, Rhino, etc.? Unfortunately not. They will only be able to be seen within inside of Enscape window.
That was one question. Can you still control texture alignment with the appearance asset? That was related to the material library, where you can import some of our materials, bring them into your design application. Those materials are being created as native materials in your design application. So you can do with them whatever you want. You can edit them the regular ways. You can change the texture alignment, all of that. And that, of course, is also true if you use the new workflow to overwrite the existing material. So yeah, absolutely, you can edit the material further.
All right. Does the asset placement line up with the topography? Great question. Yep, it should place it directly right on the surface. So our multi-asset placement feature works as well.
You can actually, yeah, exactly, use the multi-asset placement feature, so we can go into asset mode here inside of the Enscape interface, select multi-asset placement, and we can, for example, pick an entire square on this site context, or we can pick the entire floor, for example, or individual buildings, as you see, to place assets on there. I won't go that far to actually select some right now because I don't want to risk anything. But as you see, you can select that surface.
See here, any plan?
All right.
Yep. See one. Any plans to add Google Maps, geometry, and materials to the site context? Great question. Do not have yes or no answer to that, but we'll definitely pass that off to the product development team. Thanks for that.
I have one thing here. Material ID does not register my glass material. I've had to render the glass as opaque to get that. Yeah, that is a common observation. Because you cannot have something like on an alpha channel, you have binary values, it's black or white. You cannot have something transparent, you cannot see anything behind it. So if we were to display the glass material in its own, or in the material ID or in the alpha channel, then it would always block everything that is behind that, and you don't want that. I see the need to have its separate transparency layer being exported, and if you type that in the chat, we're definitely going to forward that to our product management. But yeah, maybe a separate glass layer or glass pass could solve that.
See one here. Do you guys provide channels with animations? Great question. Unfortunately not. Those are just available for still renders, but that's definitely a great feature request. We'll pass it off to the team.
Awesome.
Who got it?
By the way, it's really there have been a lot of questions being posted in the beginning, so we're looking through that. But maybe you want to ask any questions also. Maybe you want to repeat them. I'm going to check the lower ones. And also, if you're asking when will this happen or when will this be supported, thanks for your feedback. But obviously, we cannot answer that at this point.
Right. We'll definitely take the information and send it back to PM for sure. Got a good suggestion for adding people into the vehicles for 3D for our 3D assets. That's a great idea. Again, we'll definitely pass that off. Thanks again for sending that over.
Here's someone that is a Revit related question, but materials in linked file, how to edit them? that is just a Revit thing. Like it's locked when it's in a linked file, so you will have to open that linked file and edit the materials there. Also that too, it's fair to answer the question, how do we cut site context in a slope topography? Revit building pad doesn't seem to cut site context. Yes, that is true. The site context is not being cut at the moment. If you have an uneven model, or if you have some holes in your model or something, you will see the site context through that.
We have one here. The material override feature only works with Enscape materials. Correct. Currently, that's only going to pull up the Enscape material library. So you're correct. That feature only works with the Enscape material library. Feature request would be great to add your own textures in the library. That's a great feature request. Definitely, again, send that over to the team. Thanks for sending that over.
Can we make assets, in brackets, trees, transparent? It's not possible for the Enscape assets, but of course, if you import any of your own custom models, you can edit the materials there.
Let's see here.
Oh yeah, that's a great question that I wanted to answer. If the site context is saved within the design application file, does that mean that the actual saved file size increases, or is that site context data only loaded in the background when Enscape loads? The latter. So we're not saving the entire geometry in your project file. It's not going to load in any way. Of course, we're saving a little bit of data, meaning the location on the planet, but the buildings are being generated by Enscape on the spot when you open it. So don't worry, it's not going to blow up your file size.
More sports.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Another
I
feature.
Say something. Save sun angle. That has been asked a number of times. Enscape should save your sun angle when you create a view from within Enscape. If that is not the case, that depends a little bit on your design application. Like for example, if that's Revit, in the sun settings, it's best to use the still option in the sun settings for that given view from which you're creating your new view. So when you create that new view, it is copying the setup of the current view that is selected in Enscape. And if in certain settings, Enscape cannot really save the datetime. So once again, it should save the datetime. It is absolutely possible. If it doesn't work for you, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'd be happy to identify what's the issue.
Mm-hmm. A lot of Revit 23 questions for support. It's coming very soon.
Very soon.
Very soon.
Very soon.
Very soon.
We're being serious here. It's coming very soon. I'm just looking at the live questions here. Yep. This may have been asked already, but is there any considerations to be able to change asset materials? Thank you very much for that feedback. We're definitely copying the chat for product management to see. Obviously, we can't say anything here that is not already visible on some of our, what's it called? The 3.4 agenda, etc. on our website. You can view what is planned up there. Other than that, we can't really, say anything specific. Jason, by the way, hi Jason, nice to see you. I do remember you. It only saves the sun settings from the new view creation. You cannot update it for already created view. Correct. That is correct. You cannot use Enscape to update your sun position for that given view, but you can update that sun position inside of your design application. So if it's Revit, for example, you can change the sun settings there, and then that's the updated view that Enscape is going to use. So you cannot update the view in Enscape, but you can do it in your design application. Roadmap, thank you. Yeah, exactly.
Are there new textures in 3.3? Great question. Yep, we ship with 40 new materials. So if you just open up the material library, there should be a tab on the bottom that says new, and then you'll be able to click those, and it'll show you all the new materials that ship with 3.3.
And Gemma corrected me in the chat. It wasn't 101 new assets. It was 245.
285.
285. My bad. Sorry.
Yep.
Obviously, it's way more. Sorry, 3D artists.
Mac for Enscape. Great question. That is also coming soon.
Any suggestions? Habada. Any suggestions for a good night HDRI scenes that do not display the moon as a sun? So here's the issue with HDRIs. Like there is the HDRI, there's the actual high dynamic range, or IBL. There is image-based lighting, which is being used in offline rendering, which will absolutely perfectly recreate the lighting situation from when that HDR image was taken. But that only works with offline rendering. It takes a long time. If you've ever had a look at it, it creates a lot of tiny light sources. Enscape, while taking the HDRI, the image as an environment, and while using it to illuminate the scene, it is not actually taking the high dynamic range out of that, the information, because it couldn't muster that many light sources. So if you're using a night scene as an HDRI, I would recommend not to use not to wait, I need to look the setting up, not to use the brightest point as sun direction. Didn't have to look it up. You know, not to use the brightest point as sun direction, because Enscape will place the sun there, even though it's the moon. I would rather say switch the daytime to night. So the sun is gone. Maybe you can disable the sun entirely over here, and then use the skybox just to illuminate your scene. And the auto exposure will increase the brightness. So I think that way you will get the best resolution. However, I would recommend, maybe if it doesn't have to be a skybox, use the Enscape sky, and you know, you can just make it a little bit brighter to actually illuminate the scene. And you can use, or you can also make the moon a little larger, which I can't find right now. There it is. Oh, of course. Moon size. So it actually does illuminate your scene. Just a tip, I would probably go with the native Enscape night sky. Josh, do you have another question to answer?
The one for custom materials. So right now there's no way to create an Enscape material, but what you could do is create a new material inside the design application and then assign the materials either in the design application or through the Enscape material editor into the different channels, like the albedo map, the bump map, and then the roughness map. And then what you can do from there is you can hover over the material. Off to the far right, there's the three little dots. And then from there, you can click export material package. So that'll save that as an Enscape material that you can start using and setting up your company library of materials with. And then if you want to use it in your next project, just go up to the top of the material editor. There's three little lines, and then you can click import. And you can import batch import. You can import all your new created Enscape materials.
So you can save individual materials individually and load them back in, and that way you can create a setup that you can reuse in every project and actually on every design application.
Yep, exactly.
Really useful.
Yep. Let's see here. Is there a way to taper the model to the context site? Great question. Currently not, but that's a great feature that we will definitely send over to product management.
Once again, just because the question comes up one more time, the site context can only be seen like that. Can the site context be perforated to see basements? Not at the time. Once again, thank you very much for your feedback. I'm sure product management will plan the next steps accordingly. Mm-hmm. Asset materials.
Yep.
There are definitely considerations to do that, but no plans that we can talk about. Josh.
Any plans to make?
Sorry.
Any plans to make fire and water move, burning fire or running water? If we're talking like vertical water, great question. That's definitely a feature that we have in. I'll add your upvote to that. And in regards to fire, we'll definitely add that in as. I know that's been requested before, so we'll definitely add another +1 to that. Great question.
Here's a question that I really want to address because I think it causes quite some confusion, and it's really hard to figure out if you don't know about it. This is Revit specific. Someone is asking, why don't I see all my Revit materials in the Enscape editor? And,
great question.
The reason for that is if you have a material that is using a different type of material than generic. If you know the material editor, oops, those are not linked. Anyways, if you're using the material editor, and if you have any materials in your project that are, for example, transparent masonry, metal, anything that is not generic, they will not show up in this list in the Enscape material editor. I've already spoken to product management regarding this because I realized that especially this new replace the material with Enscape library material workflow, because especially for that it would be really useful to at least see those materials even if this material editor doesn't support them. Like not sure if you can change them or if you could change them, but currently they don't show up. I think it would be better to make them show up but not be editable, at least so you can replace them using the override materials workflow. I hope we agree on that. Josh? Oh, Kai, please turn your mic volume up. Oh, I'm sorry. I hope I wasn't too inaudible. Thanks for the feedback. I'm just going to go closer to the mic. Josh?
Is it possible to add trees with different density of leaf configuration? Great question. Definitely something that has been requested before. We'll keep adding that. Keep adding an upvote to that. Thanks for sending that over.
I think we're getting closer to a high density of when will this or that questions. Hi, I have 3.2 asset library available offline. How can I add the new asset offline? To get the new assets right now, you will have to download them at least once. If you cannot, uncheck this offline asset option and let it download. If you cannot get your machine online at all, consider downloading the asset library, the new one, on a different machine. Save it to a specific folder upfront, download it, and move it over to your offline machine, and that should do the trick.
Here's a good question. Does the replace material feature work in VR? Great question. Unfortunately not, but that'd be a very cool feature. We'll definitely add that in as a feature request.
I'm pretty sure you can use it while someone is in VR.
Well, yeah, you just can't do it inside of VR.
Yeah, but there's no material editor there anyways, so that it's a step there.
Right.
How should Enscape material libraries be set up for group or team use? So there's various opinions on that. One thing that we really recommend, once again, just to repeat the question, how should Enscape material libraries be set up for group or team use? If you are using the Enscape library by default, it will save the texture files in your local, in your user area of your machine, and that means if you move your project onto a different machine, or if someone else accesses it, they cannot access your downloaded textures. So while again there are many ways to optimize a team workflow with materials, something like one shared folder that you have in your network, for example. It also depends a little bit on your design application, but the main recommendation that I can give you here is if you're planning a team project, if you're planning a group project, first when downloading the Enscape material library materials, and I'm just going to show you that's here. As a first step, click on this icon here if you haven't been asked about that already. And then instead of this folder, choose something that you can reproduce on a different machine. For example, C materials, or your shared folder on your network, or something like that. Just don't leave this default folder selected if you're planning a group project. I hope that makes sense. If not, you can, of course, also reach out to us. Okay, I think we're coming close to the end. We have 2 minutes left. Gemma is already saying bye to everyone. Thank you, Gemma. Great job. Josh, do you have something left that you would like to address?
I see one where a user's, I had it and I lost it.
One question here, one last one. If I share the Revit file and it has it has site context and they have Enscape 2, will they see my site context 2 instead of Enscape 2? If they have Enscape 3.3, yes, that should be the case. If they have an older version, obviously not. All right.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Thanks for having us.
Have a good one, everybody.
And stay safe. See you for the next release.
Yep. Bye, everyone.